welcome back for a weekly COVID update. I'm Tim Berry and I'm here with Kristi Ashton to talk some about where we are in terms of our management of this pandemic today and moving forward. Kristi, first we concluded some testing again. If you could share a little bit about the frequency of that testing and the feedback that we've gotten thus far.
Absolutely. So last week we wrapped up round 5 of testing, and our results are all negative once again. This week we've wrapped up round 6 yesterday, and we're hoping to get some results this weekend. Last week's results were a little bit delayed, and that's because the lab is inundated with basically all the nursing homes in the area. We're all doing weekly testing, so they were a little bit inundated, and they mentioned that on the Maryland Department of Health call today. But things are going well in the world of testing weekly.
Okay, so right now through July, skilled facilities are to test for staff only on a weekly basis, residents if there are symptoms, and we have opted to test all of our staff. That includes assisted living on a weekly basis. We're waiting for the state to give some guidance for August. And then Kristi, you mentioned a little bit of a delay. What's creating that delay, and what kind of delay are we talking about in terms of the test results?
Yeah, for the test results. So Scion is the lab that most facilities are using. It's a state-approved lab to be able to facilitate this weekly testing mandate. And they're just overwhelmed. They're very clear to say on these calls that we have every week, every Thursday afternoon, that they're overwhelmed, plain and simple. So we're hoping that their turnaround time gets better for this week. So we'll just hang back and see. The last batch of tests that went through took about 6 days. And that's the longest time that we've had to wait.
So does that in any way interfere with the effectiveness of the testing, that delay?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with the effectiveness of the test. However, it does kind of the purpose of the test, because we're not getting it within that snapshot window of 48 hours. So it doesn't really help in the way of guiding our actions if we were to have a positive case.
Okay, so we're all in it together, and this is an issue that other providers in the state are dealing with
That's
as well,
true.
concurrently. So we're hoping to get a speedier process in the future. So testing is a major subject of discussion right now, and so is reopening. And so is our need to continue to keep our residents and our staff safe. So on the reopening front, what are you thinking today as far as what we're seeing?
So, we've talked about reopening for the last couple of videos, and what it really boils down to, because there's so much discussion around reopening, what it really boils down to is prioritization in the highest. And it's been a challenge, let's be honest. It really has. It's been a challenge to be able, because safety needs to be at the top of that at all times. We're not on the backside of this pandemic by any means. So safety is number one. And, having that open line of communication, again, that's number 2, just as important, but when we're looking at prioritization, number 2, and then, number 3, being able to have accessibility to be able to have those connections with your loved ones while we're not ready to open these doors yet. We're not guided to open these doors yet necessarily for people to be able to come in unless it's like end of life circumstances and things of that nature. So we really just, we have the guidelines, but we have to be careful, and we need to be able to disseminate the information appropriately and prioritize around safety, which is a challenge.
So some of the prerequisites for opening as far as those guidelines are concerned are going to be covered in the letter that we're sending out this week. A portion of those guidelines and what we need to have ready is the resources to be able to manage the visitation, the screening of visitors and guests, the management of that, in addition to written guidelines and protocols that need to be okayed by the state. So as far as all of that's concerned, I think when I think of that, I think of the resource piece of that. How do you see that balance of resources and what's available to us, given the fact that we're still prioritizing, as you said, around the keeping people safe part of this.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's a challenge, right? And I feel the same way. We just don't have enough resources to be able to do these extra things when the focus for us is safety and taking care of these residents here that we love so dearly. That's number one. So while we want to be able to begin to look at the guidelines we need to have in place for the outdoor visitation, we are going to do that, but it's just not that at the top of the docket right now. And like you said about the screening table, that's, all of us, here, like department heads, we've taken time away from our duties to be able to go down and to be able to screen in our staff every day. So it's been a major upheaval in the way of resources. So, I have to agree with you there that it's just a matter of balancing it all out. And, it's a give and take. And right now, safety has to be number one.
So part of what we're doing, we're still continuing to move forward with plans to reopen. It's not on the back burner, but it's not the priority, and I understand that. We've tried to be innovative around getting some of the volunteer support or some support needed to help facilitate that opening, and have had a little difficulty there. Can you talk about what the idea was? I think it was a good idea, and we're not complaining about the outcome, but still, it's what we're having to deal with. Can you talk a little bit about the volunteer piece of that?
So we had the idea to have some volunteers who would have to be approved, number one, and then they would receive some specialized training around some different duties that we need for these extra resources, such as someone to be able to assist with the cleaning process for outdoor visitation, someone to be able to take temperatures for us. But we've learned through the guidance, and then the guidance that was printed on paper from the Maryland Department of Health, as well as our local health department, that volunteers aren't allowed until phase 3, which, it's a little bit of, that makes it a hardship to be able to, we have a group of people that want to help us, but we're just not able to tap into that just yet. We do have one volunteer group that is the only approved volunteer group that we may use, and it's the Maryland Reserve Corps. And they do help us with screening, which we're so grateful for.
Okay, very good. All right, we certainly appreciate your time this week. I hope this was helpful. This is still an ever-changing circumstance. The guidance that we're getting continues to change. I don't think through any particular fault of any agency or group. It's just a lot of facts that we're trying to decipher and figure out what the best course is. So thank you, Kristi, for your time.
Thank you
for tuning in, and we'll be speaking soon.